Hello, this is Christian. This is the fifth video of the Vehicles of the World series. This is just a bonus video. I want to go back to this assignment and do a little bit of refactoring. I want to show you how you can refactor your code to make it a little bit more compact. It may not be as simple, but more compact, makes your code a little bit more efficient. Okay, so let's go and see how this can be refactored. So here's our vehicle main landing page. I'm going to do just three things. Okay, maybe one is this switch block here, right? What if I have more objects, more, like a bike, boat, motorcycle, and other objects I want to add here. So that means I have to keep coming here and manually adding more and more here. Okay. Or what if I want to delete some of those objects, right? So again, I have to come back and do it here again. So we're going to refactor this by using the arrays. So here I'll just go to my functions and I put it on the very top. And so I'm going to put here maybe a variable for array. Of course, you can also put into a constant. That's fine, but I'm just going to use a variable here. I'll call it maybe a vehicle. I'll just call it types, okay? And it's going to be an array of all the things I want to use. So, for example, car, boat, and plane. So those are the three ones that we have, right? So I have a one for that. So I use that, and then in here, back in the vehicle file here, and let me turn this off. You can see more space. So instead of doing this way, let me comment that out, and we can do this. So once I check it, once I have the object, then I can check if this object value is in that key types. Okay, so I can say if, and there's a function called an array. Okay, you can see there's a needle and things like that, right? So in the array, what I'm looking for the key, the value of the get. So if this get called object, whatever that is, if that is in the types, okay, if that is true, then I found my key, right? I think I'm missing, they're missing something here. Get object, get type. I'm missing one. Oh yeah, don't need that one. Okay, and then one at the end here. So if I'm looking for the value inside the get object, get array, like if it's a car, then I'm going to check that if that inside the types array, which contains car, then it's going to return true. So if this is true, then I'm going to create a car, a plane, or a boat. And so instead of having separate functions, now I'm going to have a new function. I'm going to call it create object. And whatever the object is, then I'm just going to pass this object key to it, right? If it's not in there, then I can go ahead and print the show the invalid. Okay, so I remove that now. So it works for any object now, as long as the objects that I have is contained in this array. Okay, so I can remove them, add them to this list, and this will work for any size, right? So that's done. Now let's go and create object. This can replace all these functions here. So in the functions file, so you can see it will be kind of similar to this, but it's going to work for all of them. As you can see, these functions here looks very similar. I mentioned in the previous video, right? Exactly the same code here. The only difference is just the key and the actual object itself. Because when I get the object, if you go down to the bottom, we actually instantiate an object using the new car, new boat, new plane based on these keys. Again, if I add more objects, or I have to come back here again and manually do this again. So let's do this first, right? Because I will use this for getting these objects here. So again, this can be replaced. So let me just comment this out again. Now, what I'm looking for, I'm looking for the car, the boat, and the plane. And this are passed through a variable called object. I should probably change this to a type. Yeah, let me just do that so it's not too confusing. Okay, because it is the type. So it's called type. So now I don't have to do a switch anymore. I do the same as before, right? You can check to see. You don't have to actually check it now because again, I will create an array. The array will contain all the instantiation of these objects. So array will look something like this. So let's go back here at the very top, and I create another array. This time I call it vehicle objects. I know a little bit long, but and this is going to be an array of objects. So the first will be a car, and that would point to a new car, right? So notice I can instantiate objects right inside here, the key. Okay, so if I get the key of the car, I'm going to get a new car, and so forth. So key of a boat, that will give me a new boat. And then the key of a plane gives me a new plane. Okay, so you see that this is kind of similar to this. Okay, so as you can see, it's redundant because these are actually the keys of these objects. And I'm not going to go into a little bit more, but you can actually simplify this that you don't even need this at all because I can actually get the keys from here using another function called array keys. Okay, and that could be another feature. So instead of saying like the types, I'll just say the array keys. And the array keys, I think array keys will return all the keys from that array, and you just use that right away. So you know, like this. So it's maybe that's a better option. I can do this. You can turn that off like that, and we'll come back and do it. I'll show you. But yeah, you can actually remove this. You don't need it because all the keys are already here. But for now, so the vehicle objects is non-array. So back down at the bottom of our file, we can then just return the object from the vehicles list objects of this type, whatever the type is. And did I mistype? Let's see. Vehicle objects. Yeah, I'm gonna copy that. Let's put it on the bottom. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. Right, this is a function. So again, PHP stuff. I cannot access global variable this way. So that means I have to kind of redeclare here. So using global and just redeclare that object, the array here. So now is locally here now. Okay, so now again, I don't have to do this anymore. My list can grow or shrink. It doesn't really matter. As long as the type is inside the array, I can just return that object to wherever it is. Okay, so we got that changed. Then the third thing is to replace all these functions up here. The create car, create boat, and create plane here, right? So we're going to create a new function up here. And I'm going to call it function create object. That's the one we call it over there. And we pass in the type, right? If you go back and look at it, we pass in the type, which is a car, boat, or plane, just a string. So it's kind of similar to this. So then instead of saying car, I'm going to call it object. I'm doing this line now, right? This line now, same line. I'm going to get the object from this type. And then that type will pass in the car, whatever it is, it's going to go to the bottom and then returns. If it's already serialized, we get that. Otherwise, we generate a new car or new object, okay, from the array. And so once you get that, once you get the car or the object, and then we can do this set here. So this part will be the same. I'm going to copy this, put it here. But instead of car, we're going to pass in this object. It's more generic this time, right? And then this will be the same. So let me just copy this and put it here. You see, it's kind of very similar, except now car is not car, it's going to be object. And then this is the key, right? The key, which is the type. If it's a car, then it's a car. So you put that in here. And then this again will be the object here. So we put that here. And then we show the key, which is the type. So now you have a single function that will replace all three of these functions down here. Okay, so you can actually remove all of these and you don't need them because it'll work now. Okay, so if I save that and go back and then just make sure. Yeah, so this part can be removed. Okay. So like that, so you can see it's much shorter. It's not as simpler. It's because you have to, you know, break it down to something simpler to actually see it, but a more efficient way. And then now let's go back to the browser and refresh our page. Hopefully there are no errors. So far so good. So over and car, as you can see, it still works just fine. Go to boat, okay, and plane, and so you can see it works just fine, no problem. Okay, so you can see that I actually reduced my code in the function. I forgot how many there were before. It's almost like 100, yeah, 100 or 101 or something. So if I remove all of these, you see that even though I added another function, I remove one that's going to replace it, I'm dropping down to line 77 lines of code. So I, have a reduction of about 25% of my code. Right? I can make it even shorter. Again, these can also be refactored, right? Again, put into array. And so you can see how I did that. Now let's go and then remove this line. We don't need this line, right? So I'll leave that here for now, but let's go to the front page and modify this type. So this type is something I have to do it twice. If I do it, I have to do it again and then do it again here. Since the keys are already here, you don't have to do that because I can extract the keys out of this right here. So over here, you can just do an array called array keys. Okay, you get the keys of all the arrays. Which array is it? Oh, it's the one called vehicle type objects. Is that what? Yeah, vehicle objects. So you can see I can get all the keys from that vehicle objects and then compare that if it's in there or not, right? So save that and we can go back and try again. Let's refresh the page again. Okay, so start over, refresh it, and here we go. It's no problem, right? Just to show that it does work, let's go and then we can just remove the car, make sure it's not there, and it should throw an error, right? So if I go here, go to my list, and remove the car, make it cars instead. I mean, this one I don't need, right? So I don't need this one here. I can just turn this off, and let's say put cars here. So that's going to be a problem. If I save that, go back to the page and refresh, start over again, refresh it, go to cars. You can see that it's invalid because car is not in my list, all right? But if I put cars, then I get the car back, okay? Except, yeah, so you can see that it does exist in the key now because I manually do that. But then again, if it's car, then it doesn't exist. So it works just perfectly as expected. So that's just a way to kind of show you how you can go back and refactor your code. Okay, sometimes efficient, sometimes is not. As you refactor your code, make your code more compact, shorter, and the shorter the code, sometimes it's not always the best, but it does help your size, your file size, because every character in your file takes a byte. Okay, so take that into account when you write some really huge programs. And so I just hope that this kind of give you an idea of how you can actually go back and modify your code, make it more efficient. Not only that, make it more advanced. You can look at it as more advanced versus something like a little switch, and you see like that all the time in your assignments. All right, so again, let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for watching.